Mr. Squidward. Welcome to the night shift.
Hello again, everybody, and welcome into another episode of the MI6 Sports Network's late night sports program and sports talk show. That, of course, folks, is The Night Shift on episode number 19 on this Saturday night, November 7th, 2020. As usual, folks, joined alongside by our fellow MI6 Night Owl co-host, our good buddy Isaiah Leung from the Garage Studios up in Fremont, California. Yours truly, Callan, McClurg, joining you folks here from the home studios in San Diego. Isaiah, as always, man, we thank you for staying up late and for joining us, man. How we doing tonight?
Doing good, Callan. This day started out really good for me. I had some really good news earlier in the day when I first woke up. And then, the day just turned really sour from then on. I had Michigan losing to Indiana, which, like you guys saw that video of me proclaiming, oh, Michigan's going to the Big Ten championship, and Ohio State should be trembling. Michigan is now 0-2 since I made that video. And then right after that, I think Iowa State's playing Baylor, and even though they won, Brock Purdy, my boy, throws 3 interceptions in the first 3 possessions of that game against Baylor. And then last but not least, my Georgia Bulldogs, my beloved Georgia Bulldogs, lose to the Florida Gators, snapping our 5-year SEC East streak, and also ending our dream of going back to the college football playoff. So overall, it's been a very down day, Callan, and Hawaii is also losing to New Mexico. Last time I checked, it was like 20-7. So everything's just been going wrong, man.
Yeah, going wrong for sure. And of course, folks, as a reminder, the night shift on here on this Saturday. Again, Isaiah and myself come your way every Tuesday, Saturday, and Sunday night, 10 o'clock Pacific time, to recap all the big games, the big plays, big games, and big scores and big news of the day, all for our late night audience here again every Tuesday, Saturday, and Sunday right here on the MI6 Sports Network. But of course, folks, we welcome your input, though, your questions, your comments, or your concerns throughout the course of our program. So hit up the live chat box with your thoughts about today's games or anything that you want to perhaps have us read. And of course, we'll do our best to read those questions, comments, or concerns live on the air here tonight. With that, Isaiah, we'll get to the big game of the night. And I think it was well advertised, and I think led up to all the billing, but Clemson and Notre Dame duking it out today from Notre Dame Stadium up there in Indiana. Notre Dame, 4th ranked in the nation, pulls off the upset of the Clemson Tigers, ranked number 1, 47-40. Notre Dame wins this ball game in double overtime as the Tigers shoot themselves in the foot with a very terrible and very rough second overtime drive, stalling to lose the game and ultimately fall, more than likely out of the number 1 spot in the upcoming rankings. But Isaiah, this game, though, man, had so many twists and turns, and I think certainly lived up to all the build up, the hype and expectations of this ball game. But at the same time, though, man, definitely a game that I think a lot of people will remember for a while, but more so that Notre Dame probably, I think, proved to people that they are for real this season. Absolutely sensational day with this game. I think, though, props to Clemson for playing 2 games in a row without Trevor Lawrence and nearly winning both. I mean, we saw them, of course, beat Boston College, but nearly 2 games in a row with a backup quarterback, nearly beating a very good Notre Dame ball club. But in the end, though, that final drive, though, was the turning point of this ball game. Isaiah, overall thoughts on what was one hell of a ball game between the Irish and Tigers today up there in Notre Dame?
Well, first of all, before I get into this game, I want to get some stuff off my chest right now. I am still extremely miffed at those pathetic referees for picking up that flag. I think it was in the 4th quarter with about 4:23 left in the game. I might be wrong on that, Callan, but they picked up that flag when Ian Book fires a pass to the wide receiver of Notre Dame, number 11. I don't remember his name, but number 11, he gets both of his arms hooked. The referee throws a flag for pass interference, and after several minutes of discussion between the referee crew and also Dabo Sweeney, whining and throwing a temper tantrum on the sideline, they pick up the flag and they say, no pass interference. It is 4th down. That was an absolutely horrific call. It was bogus. It was terrible. I mean, what can the receiver do? The defender has both of his arms hooked behind his back. Like, how the heck can he catch the ball? Can he catch the ball with his, just with his back? No. You need your arms to catch the damn ball. So how is that not pass interference? And you only give in because Dabo Sweeney is over there, throwing a temper tantrum and turning all red and stuff? Who cares what Dabo Sweeney thinks? Make the right call. Stop bowing down to these coaches and these elite programs just because they're mad at you and they're cussing you out. Have some guts and make the right call and stop ruining college football. That was a terrible call, man. And I'm sure, or that was a terrible no call. My apologies. And I'm sure a lot of people in college football agree with me on that. But Callan, you're right. This was the game of the year. This definitely lived up to the hype and more of all the hype that we've been talking about this game. Now with Notre Dame winning, chaos has ensued in college football because the top dog Clemson Tigers, they have gone down, which means if Notre Dame, who is now in the driver's seat to winning the ACC, if they can win the ACC and Ohio State wins the Big Ten and Alabama wins the SEC, there's 3 spots right there. There's going to be a very fascinating debate to see who gets that final spot in the college football playoff. Are you going to put in a one-loss Clemson? Are you going to put in maybe Florida if they loses to Alabama in the SEC championship game, a one-loss Florida? Are you going to put in BYU? I know me and you have talked about that a whole lot. You don't think BYU deserves to go to the playoffs. I think they should go to the playoffs. And also a Pac-12 team. What if Oregon goes 6-0 and goes undefeated, or USC goes 6-0 and goes undefeated and wins the Pac-12? So there's going to be a lot of fascinating debate now because Notre Dame beat Clemson. It's going to be very fascinating to see who gets that final spot in the college football playoff. And also this game, you were right. There was a lot of twists and turns. This game showed that Ian Book, the senior quarterback from Notre Dame, he's got a lot of guts, man, and he is so much confident. I mean, this guy, they were down, I believe it was 33-26 with 2 minutes left to go, and he was standing at his own 10-yard line, needing 90 yards to get a touchdown. And this guy doesn't panic. He just calmly leads them down the field for a touchdown, makes big throw after big throws after big throws. This guy doesn't turn the ball over. I wouldn't be surprised if this guy goes in the first 3 rounds of the NFL draft.
Isaiah, I get the frustration about the that pass interference, but my gripe, though, here goes to the number of very ludicrous instant replay reviews that made this game drag on longer, as if we didn't have this game already interrupted earlier on and moved to a different network due to political reasons, as we've already know, of course, what's gone on in the political world. But that, for one, the game gets moved off NBC for about half an hour or an hour to USA, for one thing. Then also, Isaiah, we have the fact, though, more so in the waning minutes of this game, though, there had to be a review of a play for every minor, small little detail it looked to me over the course of this ball game. And I think I even put it on Twitter, the amount of reviews, Isaiah, that we had to sit through with so many close calls. I get, Isaiah, that you want to get these calls right, though. But at the same time, does every single catch have to be reviewed if the ball just happens to, move a little bit in a guy's hand? Do we have to see if, the entire foot or one little, if his pinky toe's out of bounds? That was my only gripe, though, about otherwise, what was a great game, though, was the amount of, very ticky-tack replay reviews over very, very, I think, calls that should not have been missed on the field. I know, of course, we have replay for a reason, but more so, Isaiah, I agree, though, about Ian Book, though. I mean, he made up for a very big mishap where he's in the, running towards the end zone, gets tackled at his ankles, loses the ball in a fumble situation, and Clemson gets the ball back. But he drives down behind, losing by a touchdown, drives down the field. I think he covered 91 yards in a minute 26 seconds. Dan Marino, John Elway, they would have been proud of what they saw this kid do with him leading a comeback drive and probably his biggest game of his career. And again, Notre Dame wins this game and once again pulls off the upset over number 1 ranked Clemson. As mentioned, folks, in double overtime, nonetheless, 47-40. Isaiah, back over to you.
Yeah, I got 2 points to make. Number one, I completely agree with you, Callan. Some of those replays that occurred in the game, it was completely unnecessary. Like, you had a referee literally stand by the Notre Dame sideline where the tight end makes the catch. 1 foot is inbounds. He makes the catch right in front of the referee, and the referee decides, oh, we have to replay it because we don't know if a little part of his foot was out of bounds. And I'm just like, dude, come on, man. You're standing right there. If you're not seeing that correctly, what are you doing there on the field? It just makes no sense whatsoever. And another one that bothered me was when the Clemson quarterback, DJ Ugalele, is that his name, Callan? DJ.
Close enough. Mike Tirico was flawless with that.
He was great, man. That's why he's one of the best announcers in the game. But DJ Ugalele, he dives into the end zone for the touchdown, and you could clearly see that he stretched the ball over the plane. He was in. None of his knee touched the ground, and they decided to go to replay. And Dabo Sweeney absolutely threw a fit. There on the sideline, and I was thinking to myself, why the heck do you guys need a replay? You guys, we on TV could clearly see that he was in for the touchdown. It was clear as night and day, and they just decided to replay it. So it was really pathetic when it came to the replay and some of the calls on the field. But the second point I gotta make, and this might seem really controversial, but I really think that this win by Notre Dame solidified Brian Kelly as a top 5 head coach in college football. And, me and you talked about this with Ryan and Shree and Steven pre-call. Not pre-call, but pre-show. But I think, Brian Kelly, he's done a lot there in Notre Dame. He's been to a national championship. Granted, he lost, but hey, he still went there. He's been to the playoffs multiple times. And now he gets this signature regular season win that has been eluding him the past 7-8 years at Notre Dame. He beat the number 1 team in the country. He's done basically everything that you want a top coach to do in college football. And honestly, I can't think of I think Brian Kelly right now is a top 5 head coach in college football. I think you have Ryan Day, Nick Saban, obviously, that are better. Brian Kelly, who should be on that list. I'm pretty sure I'm forgetting others, but Brian Kelly has to be number 5 or above on the list of college football coaches. He's done a remarkable job so far at Notre Dame.
I don't see him in the top 5. I see him maybe top 10, but not top 5, in my opinion, as mentioned with Sweeney, and I'd even throw Kirby Smart in there, with Dabo, Nick Saban. James Franklin, I think, of Penn State has got to be in consideration as well for how he's looked over the past, and again, getting that Penn State program back on their feet after a very tumultuous time with the Joe Paterno turnover there. Some thoughts, though, rolling in about some of the college football action. Our good buddy Casey King says it was almost a perfect day as his Trojans won. The Bruins lost, but of course Notre Dame pulls it off. Stupid Damers ruin the day. Notre Dame will probably end up moving into number 1, but despite their win, I will admit it was a good game. I don't see Notre Dame going into the top spot. It was a good win over Clemson, but you still have Alabama, who was on a bye week. That's probably now going to take over number 1. Ohio State, who clobbered Rutgers, will now go to number 2 on the season, in my mind. So I don't see Notre Dame. They may move up 1 spot, but I have Bama and Ohio State solidifying 1 and 2 right now. Also, Casey says the refs always suck and favor Notre Dame a bulk of the time. Perhaps I agree with that. mainly more so, I think that it could have been perhaps looked that way, but at the same time, Clemson probably didn't get a lot of breaks though, and here they were ranked number one. And also, Casey says, I would love it if USC can win the Pac-12 and get into the playoff. I would love to play Notre Dame and beat the Irish. And perhaps, I mean, we'll see what pans out. But again, probably 3 of the 4 spots are probably open. Also, shareable Steve Wang writes in that he agrees with us. The replays are getting ridiculous. I mean, I lost count, but I think, Isaiah, there may have been like 7 or 8, maybe close to 10 replay reviews in the final 5 minutes of that game tonight between Clemson and Notre Dame.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think there was like 10 replays in the final like 6, 7 minutes.
It sure felt like it. It probably wasn't an exact number, but it sure felt like there was a lot of reviews in that last part of the game.
I felt like every time someone made a catch or, someone tried to make a catch or someone ran the ball, they would just replay. It was just like, dude, come on, man. Like the time is ticking. We have better stuff to do than spend the next 15 years of our life watching, or not 15 years, like the next hour of our lives watching you continuously go to replay. Like, can we speed this up a bit? But Callan, I got to ask you one thing. You said you would put James Franklin on your list in terms of the top 5 head coaches right now in college football. But given the fact that, Penn State's 0-3, and also the fact that, James Franklin, I feel like he's underachieved at Penn State because, I get the fact that they were rocked by the paternal scandal, but he hasn't been able to, get to the Big Ten championship. He hasn't been able to consistently beat Ohio State, Michigan, and also Wisconsin some years. Would you given all of his inconsistencies with beating his rivals and, not having that much success in the playoffs and not having deep success when it comes to going to the college football playoff or getting to the national championship game, do you still maintain that stance of putting James Franklin and maybe a Kirby Smart ahead of a Brian Kelly?
I do, because of, Brian, I think mainly because Brian Kelly is at a school, mainly in my mind, it's a lot like my BYU argument, because Notre Dame is independent, because they can go and play those big, bad schools, and they're not tied into a conference minus this season. But I think that Franklin and Smart get more weight in my mind because Notre Dame can go and play anybody they want on any given day, any given time, except for the season. But that's why that they get more weight, or they get votes ahead of Brian Kelly right now, because Notre Dame is at the mercy, or that Notre Dame is is a independent program where, again, you have Franklin and all these other guys actually tied into conferences, again minus this 1 year because of the pandemic. But I do think, though, that Brian Kelly's at least top 10, but certainly in my mind, he's not top 5. If Notre Dame can get into the playoffs and win the thing, then I may reconsider. But right now, I would put other guys ahead of them. And also, Steven says as well, Isaiah, the college football playoff semifinals are setting up to be an absolute joke this season, and it will destroy the argument for playoff expansion, which I think, Isaiah, leaves you and BYU on the outside looking in, because it's been with BYU not making it this year because of how dreadfully bad it's been so far on the season. So I don't, in fact, see how things have gone so far. And also, Christy says, hello, everybody. And also, the Clemson-Notre Dame game was crazy. A double overtime finish, and again, Notre Dame wins 27-20. And also, we got Chris Wilson watching us real quick. I believe from the MI6 page, he says, fellas, Brian Kelly's 40-6 since their 4-8 season, and don't play FCS teams like the SEC, ACC, etc., or, for example, playing cupcakes. They are just dismal against the top 5, going 1-7 in those games. But at the same time, I, for one, don't watch too much college football. I watch enough, but I would still put those 2 guys over Brian Kelly at this rate. With that in mind, Isaiah, over to the other big game on the schedule, Florida and Georgia, a neutral site game from TIAA Bank Field down there in Jacksonville, Florida, all about the Gators chomping away the Bulldogs. 44-28, Isaiah. I'll let you fill this in because I turned the game off following the broken ankle injury suffered by the Georgia receiver and got very pissed off at CBS for showing the replay a gazillion times over and over and over and over again. So I turned the game off and went to a different game. So Isaiah, we'll let you talk about the Gators eating up your Georgia Bulldogs.
Can we skip this topic? I'm completely sick to my stomach, man, after what I saw today.
Hey, Isaiah, guess what?
What?
No.
I've been dreading this moment ever since the game happened today. That's why tonight, instead of, my typical coffee or water or even soda that I have on the show, or even apple cider, I brought red wine. Red wine is going to help me get over all this terrible stuff that happened today that we're talking about on the show. So you might see me like a little not my normal self because I might be, hammered with the red wine. But in terms of this game, Callan, I don't know what to tell you, man. It was expected, to be honest, because first of all, Georgia in their game last week against Kentucky, everybody's talking about how they only put up 14 points against a lowly Kentucky team. But the big story of that game that a lot of people aren't talking about is the fact that Georgia lost 6 of their 11 starters on defense from that game. And I said that last night that with those guys missing, those studs missing, and also Richard LeCount, who after the game I guess he was on his motorcycle. I don't know. I think it was like a dirt bike incident with Madison Bumgarner where he was on a motorcycle and he was doing some crazy stuff and he injured himself on his motorcycle. So he was out for not only this game, but he was out for, I believe, he was out for not only this game, but he's probably going to be out for the majority of this season as well. This was a big blow to the Bulldogs. That means they had 7 of their top 11 starters on defense out. And then during the game, they had 2 safeties, their top 2 safeties go down as well. So you were basically missing 9 of your 11 top starters on defense in this football game. And, you can't beat a high-powered Florida Gator offense by playing like majority of your defense being backups. You just can't. Like this is exactly reminiscent of the 49ers Packers game when the big bad Packers played against the 49ers practice squad. The Georgia Bulldogs were completely decimated by injuries. They had no chance in this game from the start. They were up 14-0, but I was like, yeah, they're up 14-0 because they got a 75-yard run on the first play of the game, and then they had a Stetson Bennett. He drove them down the field, but their defense couldn't stop them all day. Florida was having their way all around. It was not fun to watch. I turned the TV off when I believe Florida took a 38-21 lead because I was like, yeah, 38-21 at halftime. There's still like another half to go. You're not going to stop Florida's offense. You're not going to be able to shut them out the entire half. Your offense is not going to be able to, score 38 points. Scoring 38 points would be cause for us Georgia Bulldogs fans to run on the street and pop that champagne because it's never happened in a long time. So this game was just a poop fest, man, and their season is done.
Some thoughts here, guys, about the game. Again, our buddy Chris Wilson, again, tuning in from the MI6 page. He says, in regards to the stats he threw out about the James Franklin and Penn State, he just says, guys, I'm a college nut, LOL. Nothing wrong with that. I mean, we love having more numbers than what we can offer here, so we appreciate that very much, Mr. Wilson. Shareable Steve, the Bulldogs are the Wisconsin Badgers of the SEC. As someone who supports Wisconsin, I can vouch for that. Chrissy says, Isaiah, you picked Florida yesterday. Laughing face emoji. Steven, also writing in to say, Callan's no is the best. I don't know if it is or if Bugs Bunny does it better. That's my go-to gif against Isaiah when he wants to back out of doing programming because of his ludicrous predictions over the course of a season. Also, James Gonzalez.
I did pick Florida, though.
James Gonzalez says, Isaiah cannot catch a break with his teams lately. And also, Chris Wilson, love your guys. Show him sound. Got his own stuff tomorrow morning. So if you folks are not busy, check out Chris's program tomorrow at 10 a.m. For his program. And also, real quick, James Gonzalez says, red wine, stay close to me, quote, end quote. Also, Chris Wilson says that Trask has almost seemingly turned into Superman laughing out loud. As mentioned, Shareable Steve wrote in to say, stop making excuses, Isaiah, in regards to why your Bulldogs lost this game. Also, as well, Chris says, Georgia's D couldn't stop that passing game. Trask is the first SEC quarterback to have 4 TDs in 5 straight games. Stephen, he already did it, though, but get ready for Isaiah to become a Florida fan. Chomp, chomp. Oh, boy. Isaiah saying no. Also, we've got Chardol with his SEC football championship game prediction. Georgia versus Texas A&M. I'll agree about Georgia, but it's got to be Alabama. Sorry, A&M's not going anywhere this season.
I got Mississippi State.
Also, as well, Chris says, laughing out loud at Isaiah saying poop fest. I mean, hey, it is what it is. Casey and Chardol both agree that Georgia is done. Steven says that the Isaiah curse is back on. Do not try to disguise it via the law of large numbers with 50-plus teams. And also, Casey says, I love my red wine as well. He's going with Chianti, I'm guessing, as his favorite red wine, though it's pretty much just water with red food coloring that Isaiah is drinking. And also, Steven says that Chardol tries too hard to match Isaiah's ridiculous predictions. Oh, I wonder why. Maybe we'll ask Isaiah later. But again, folks, as mentioned in this ball game, Florida handily over Georgia from Jacksonville, 44-28, the Gators over the Bulldogs. As if Isaiah's day could not get any worse. The Michigan Wolverines were facing the Indiana Hoosiers today in Bloomington, Indiana. But first, folks, let's kind of, again, rewind. Go back a bit in the archives here and listen back to what happened before the Big Ten season started with Isaiah talking about his beloved Michigan Wolverines. Take a look.
Michigan, this is Jim Harbaugh's best team at Michigan. He finally has his quarterback. I know Callan keeps saying death, taxes, and Michigan losing Ohio State. Well, that curse is going to end this year. Michigan is beating Ohio State. They have a great offensive line. They have a great running game. The receivers finally have knowledge of that system. And Joe Milton, my oh my, was I impressed with this dude. This dude has a cannon of an arm. This guy runs like Lamar Jackson. I mean, he's like Lamar Jackson, but with a cannon of an arm. Like, this guy is going to be great. Ohio State needs to be trembling right now because the Wolverines are on their way to the Big Ten championship.
Isaiah. Do you care to speak about your Michigan Wolverines, who, by the way, the Indiana Hoosiers folks win this ball game 38-21. They snap a 24-game losing streak against the Wolverines, all at the expense of Jim Harbaugh, who Christy Wilson wrote it in, Isaiah, but she said it best, though. Christy Wilson says that Jim Harbaugh is in real big trouble after this loss. Again, missnaps a 24-game winning streak for Michigan, losing to the Hoosiers. Again, 38-21, Indiana over Michigan. Isaiah, once again, man, the floor is all yours.
Give me 1 second, Callan. Good red wine, by the way. All right. Like I said last week on the Halloween Spooktacular, Michigan is the walking piece of mediocrity. You cannot hype them anytime you give them any kind of hype, you give them any kind of hope, they will always break your heart. That is the Michigan Wolverines program. Jim Harbaugh. First of all, let me say this before I get into Jim Harbaugh. I'm a jinx, Callan. I am a big bad jinx. Ever since I made that video, which was I believe after Michigan destroyed Minnesota in their first game of the season, and I went on fan response, praising Harbaugh, it's like he finally got his quarterback. The defense is going to be great. The offensive line is going to be great. The wide receivers are going to be great. Michigan is going to, run through the entire Big Ten and go to the Big Ten championship. This will be the year that they finally beat Ohio State. I look like a complete fool, man. I look like a guy that doesn't know what he's talking about. I'm a jinx, man. That's all I'm gonna say. I'm a jinx, Cal. And that video, ever since it happened, I'm 0-2, or Michigan's 0-2 since that video went out. So Michigan, I'm sorry, to the fans out there, I'm sorry for jinxing your team. But in terms of this game, Jim Harbaugh, like I said last week, he is a crook. He needs to be arrested right now because he's consistently stealing Michigan's money year in and year out. I mean, this guy is making $7-8 million a year for mediocre results. Michigan is not paying you that much money to be mediocre. They're paying you that much money to get them to beat Ohio State, to get them to beat Penn State, to get them to win the Big Ten West or the Big Ten East, whatever division they're in. They're paying you that much money to get them to the Big Ten championship, to win the Big Ten championship. And also they're paying you that much money to get them to the college football playoff and win national championship. But so far, Jim Harbaugh, you've been mediocre. You're putting up the same stuff that Brady Hope has put up at Michigan before he got fired, because Michigan officials thought, oh, yeah, those results, they're okay. But this is Michigan. We can do so much better. And they decided to pay Harbaugh all that money, and now he is delivering the same results that Brady Hope has delivered before he got fired at Michigan. Jim Harbaugh needs to be fired ASAP. I mean, this guy cannot develop quarterbacks. His offenses are terrible. That's why he had to hand over play calling to his offensive coordinator. His offensive coordinator has done a terrible job play calling. I mean, you only scored 21 points against freaking Indiana. Are you joking? The same Indiana team that got lit up by Penn State and has been one of the bottom feeders of the Big Ten for the last 5 years. And you lost to them, I believe, at home, which makes it even more embarrassing for you, Jim Harbaugh. And, the one saving grace, or the saving grace that Michigan used to have, was that they had a really good defense, that every time you play them, their defense would only give up 17 points a game, and they would keep you in game. Well, now their defense is not even stout anymore. Their defense has been giving up 35 plus points a game. They can't stop the run. They can't rush the passer. They can't cover wide receivers. You add that to the long list of laundry that is Michigan's terrible offense. This program just can't do anything right. They are headed down to the dumpster. It's to the bottom of the dumpster. It is over, man. Jim Harbaugh, I would not be surprised if he goes back to the NFL after this season, because it is simply just not working out. And if Michigan, or if Jim Harbaugh does not go to the NFL, I would fire him, because he's making $7-8 million and he's not even giving you even close to the result that you expect to get from a coach making that much money.
Michigan is in all kinds of shambles, folks. Some thoughts rolling in about the Wolverines. First and foremost from Chris Wilson. Harbaugh is more realistic than just calling him Jim Harbaugh, apparently. James Gonzalez says, just when you think Michigan is on their way, ugh. Definitely agree about that. As mentioned, go 1-0, then lose back-to-back games. Chris also says, all hype, no results. And also, Chris, in regards to Isaiah saying about the Big Ten championship, Big Ten championship, laugh face, laugh face. Casey King, Michigan, another overrated team, and Jim Harbaugh still hasn't done a thing there. No way they're going to beat Ohio State this season. And like I said before, Harbaugh, I think, ends up back in the NFL next year sometime or somewhere soon. And also as well, Chris, in regards to Isaiah drinking his red wine, to give his take, he says, LOL, Isaiah just stalling. Pretty much I agree. Casey also writes in, don't know who Michigan brings in, but it's time for them to part ways with Jim Harbaugh. Definitely think it's time, especially regardless, if they lose to Ohio State this year, Casey, he's got to be done. Like I said, though, there are those games, Isaiah, real quick, before that, that there's games on the schedule when you play college sports. There are teams you have to beat, and especially if it's a inner city rivalry, Cal, Stanford, USC, UCLA, but in Michigan's case, it's Sparty, it's Notre Dame, and it's also Ohio State. You can't beat those three schools. There is no need. You shouldn't be in that spot coaching those ball clubs. Also, some thoughts here from Casey as well. And when did the Hoosiers become a football program? So used to seeing them as a basketball school, laughing out loud. The same argument is also said about KU, Kansas, also, whenever they play football to basketball. And also, Christy says, time for Harbaugh to go. She replied to Casey in regards to where he thought he should be an NFL coach. Let me see. Is this the Chicago Bears front office? Yeah, hire Harbaugh. Thank you. That's where I think he could probably go, honestly, at this rate. Not because I'm a Bears fan, but my goodness, they need a new head coach. Sometime sooner than later. Some more thoughts here from Chris Wilson. Harbaugh is only good if he has an established quality quarterback. He's garbage otherwise than that. And also, Chris tells Isaiah, don't hold back. And also, as well, Casey agrees with me. Replying back to Christy, not sure where, but I could see maybe Chicago, as he once played there in Chicago. And of course, Isaiah will break out the Clay Helton to Michigan campaign. No, that's not going to work.
Please take him. Please take him, Michigan.
It's not going to work that way because your Trojans came back and beat Arizona State. So with every victory, it just gives them more reason to keep him around longer as the Trojans folks come back against the Herm Edwards-led ASU Sun Devils at a empty LA Coliseum with a thrilling, great late-game comeback led by Keaton Slovis, 28-27 Trojans over the Sun Devils as the Trojans put up 3 unanswered touchdowns in the waning 2 minutes of the ball game to shock Arizona State and beat them at the LA Coliseum today. Isaiah, you want to talk about another game with twists and turns more so. ASU pulling a Atlanta Falcons and not knowing how to properly jump on an onside kick, and the Trojans take advantage of that, and Slovis leads this ball club down the field for a game-winning drive to, of course, pick up their first one of the abbreviated Pac-12 schedule. Isaiah, a great game. Still, though, not a fan of that 9 a.m. start time, though, for the Pac-12, but hey, it is what it is, though, and the Trojans win the game, and again, can keep, and with that win, get to keep Mr. Clay Helton around a bit longer after he won that game today over Arizona State. But what do you got for us?
Well, Callan, before I get into this game, let me just say, ladies and gentlemen, get used to this name, Kedon Slovis. This kid is going to be a top 5 pick in the NFL draft when he comes out. Mark my words on this. I have watched college football for a long, long time, and this kid, he is a sophomore right now, a true sophomore. He is doing things right now that I have rarely seen from quarterbacks his age. I mean, he's got great footwork. He's got a great arm. He understands a lot of offensive systems in college football. He reads defenses very well. He reads the blitz very well. He's a great leader. I mean, today when USC was down by I think it was 13 points with 5 minutes left in the game, and the game was kind of like, it felt like it was over for USC, but you never saw any panic. You never saw Kedon Slovis cussing his teammates out. This kid is so confident. He has so much calmness in him, and it rubs off on his teammates. This guy is going to be great. He's going to be the next great USC quarterback to go to the NFL. But about this game, Callan, I really thought that I was going to be able to wear a Fire Clay Helton t-shirt live on the air today because I was one of the people that thought that this game was over. USC, they looked really sluggish in this football game. I think the 9 a.m. kickoff time had a lot of things to do with it, but they couldn't stop turning the football over. Keaton Slovis looked really bad in this game. The defense was really bad as well. I mean, 3rd and 14, and you give up a first down. Are you serious? And also, I believe it was after USC has scored a touchdown to make it. They scored a touchdown to make it 14-10, and on right after that, on the ensuing possession, that play, Jaden Daniels throws a screen pass to the wide receiver. The wide receiver makes the catch, and he runs 55 yards for a touchdown. It was the most pathetic tackling I've ever seen in my life. I mean, those guys didn't even give any effort when they were trying to tackle that wide receiver. It was just so pathetic. They need to work on that defense, because if you continue to play that kind of defense against the other teams that you guys are going to be going against, you won't have that kind of luck that you have today and be able to win those games. But USC won this game because of Keaton Slovis, and they won this game because they simply got lucky. Keaton Slovis was absolutely magnificent today. He was 40 of 55, 381 yards, 2 touchdowns, 1 interception. Like I said earlier, he was just so calm, so confident down the stretch. And he really took the Trojans and put them on his back and willed them to victory. I mean, they were down 27-13 with 5 minutes left. They faced 2 fourth downs on that second to the last drive, where they scored the touchdown to make it 27 to I believe it was 27 to it was 27-14. So they scored a touchdown to make it 27-21 on that drive. They faced 2 fourth downs, and on those 2 fourth downs, Keaton Slovis just threaded the needle to his wide receiver like a veteran NFL quarterback would do. It was so impressive to watch. And then that touchdown they did score, they got really lucky. I mean, it was 4th and 15. Arizona State jumps off sides. Keaton Slovis heaves one in deep into the end zone, and the wide receiver and the Arizona State cornerback leap up to try to make a play on the ball. They both tip the ball, and what happens? Brew McCoy, the USC receiver, is standing right next to the USC receiver and the Arizona State cornerback, who were both trying to make a play for the ball. He tips it right to Brew McCoy, who makes the catch for the touchdown. I mean, how much luckier can you get than that? And then the onside kick, Callan, where they kick it right to the Arizona State defender, but he misses. He just flats out misses the catch. The ball goes right through his hand, and then the scrum ensues, and USC gets the football back. And then on the final drive, USC, I believe, faced 2 more fourth downs on that one. And Keaton Slovis, same thing, being calm, very collective, just leading the Trojans down the field and converting those fourth downs. And I think it was like 4th and 9 from the 21-yard line. I might be wrong on that, but he heaves it down the field into the end zone, puts it right where only his wide receiver, Drake London, can leap up and make the catch. It was a perfectly thrown ball, touchdown USC, and that's your ball game right there. Keaton Slovis was magnificent. I hope that everybody, like the whole nation, watched that today, because this kid is special, and he's going to be a special player at the next level once he graduates.
Still not a fan of the 9 a.m. start time. Sorry, I'm just going to be Debbie Downer about that. Still not a fan of that 9 a.m. morning start time. At this rate, some thoughts here about the ball game, about the Trojans winning over the Sun Devils in improbable fashion, 28-27. James Gonzalez starts off the comments here. My Trojans got lucky today. Too many turnovers by USC. Definitely agree on that aspect. Chris Wilson writes and says that the Trojans had a less than 1% chance to win the ball game before their comeback today versus ASU. Casey King says, how about my Trojans showing heart in the end? Boy, I was getting pissed in this game, but they get it done late in game. And the final 2 minutes felt like watching a Kings playoff game or a Dodger game playoff rally. Stab to the heart of me with those two franchises Casey just mentioned. Also, James says, sorry, Isaiah, but I don't mind Clay Helton.
I think James, you don't mind, but 99% of USC fans don't like him. If just watch what happened on Twitter today during that USC Arizona State game when Clay Helton was completely getting lit up for what was going on the field. I mean, some USC fans wanted him to be fired at halftime. They were calling on Mike Bone, the athletic director, to fire him at halftime of that game, and also fire him if USC lost to Arizona State and not let him leave the Coliseum. That's how bad it was. But if you look at USC's remaining schedule, it gets really easy from here, actually. They got at Arizona next week. Arizona sucks. They got at Utah. Utah might be a challenge, but they did lose a lot of talent. Then they have home against Washington State. They got home against Colorado, two teams that are kind of rebuilding right now. And then they have UCLA against Chip Kelly's pathetic Bruins. I honestly think that USC could run the table and go undefeated heading into the Pac-12 championship game, which if they do, Clay Helton is not only going to be
cliffhanger because of Isaiah having some technical difficulties. So we'll come back to that, James, but some more thoughts here. First from Chris Wilson. The Trojans had 2 fourth-down touchdown throws. Pretty sick, if you ask me. And that's very difficult to do, especially when you have, especially when I think, though, Chris, it's more so magnified when you see a team struggling all day on offense and they finally kind of get that rhythm going finally, and it happens to be on fourth down in a big-time moment or a crunch-time situation. Also, Casey agrees, but USC really needs to get it together and play better if they want a shot to beat Oregon later in the season. That'll be a very big key component, too. Again, if they keep turning the ball over like they did today, they could be in some deep, deep trouble. And also, James echoes that statement saying that the Trojans cannot play defense like they did today versus someone better, like, for example, the Oregon Ducks, who, again, did defeat Stanford from Eugene here today. And also, Chris echoes both those statements by saying, though, they need more consistent offense. I would agree, though, too. Again, it's one thing to play good defense or play bad on both sides of the ball, though. But for USC, though, for me, it boils down to their offense being more of a factor than their defense more so. And I think that their offense, I would agree with Chris, that they need more consistent offense in for the game here today. And also from Casey, bright spots for the Trojans in his mind, besides Keaton Slovis, really thought was Brew McCoy and Drake London, who made those key catches to score those key touchdowns. And again, like Isaiah said, though, you had that very loony one that the ball was tipped in the air by a defender and happens to go right, Johnny on the spot, right place, right time. The receiver's there to catch the ball to win to essentially win the ball game or at least tie the game for USC against Arizona State. Stephen, we'll get to your Clemson question in just a moment here before we'll wait for Isaiah to get back in here. Chardol does have some very interesting thoughts here that maybe if there's 6 NFL teams perhaps that could perhaps hire Jim Harbaugh, that'd be Atlanta, the Chargers, the Texans, the Bears, Broncos, and Texans. I, for one, would probably think that while the Harbaugh family has some ties to the Chargers when they were in San Diego, Jim and John, both at one point with the Charger organization, maybe more so John with the Chargers back in the day could be a spot. Mainly in regards to Chardol's question, the only spot that mainly stands out, and not because of me being a Bears fan, but he can't do much worse than Matt Nagy. And I think that if he's looking to get back into a spot where there is, probably right now, not a lot of pressure to win games right now, I would see Harbaugh going to Chicago before anybody else. But again, it would be a matter, though, of them perhaps paying up more for him. With that in mind, Isaiah, we'll go back to you for you to finish off your thoughts about USC's remaining schedule.
Do you remember where I left off before the internet crashed?
You were in the middle of talking about their schedule, and you were talking about Chip Kelly and UCLA, I believe.
Yeah, so they got at Arizona next week. Then they have, I believe, at Utah, and then after that they come home for 2 games versus Colorado and then versus Washington State, 2 programs that are rebuilding, and then at Chip Kelly's UCLA Bruins. I really think that at USC could run the table and go undefeated because of how easy their rest of their schedule looks. I mean, right now in their schedule, Utah might be really difficult, or might be a bit difficult because they are always a challenge to USC and they're very physical, but they did lose a lot of talent last year. So I could see USC going undefeated and running the table prior to the Pac-12 championship game. And if that does happen, you better believe that Clay Helton will not only be safe for this year, but he's going to guaranteed be here probably after next season as well.
Definitely agreed for sure. But again, folks, USC wins the ball game 28-27. Some more thoughts here real quick. Christy Wilson did not think that ASU would choke like the Falcons did. Of course, the Falcons sadly have got to be the laughing stock right now at this rate, sadly, at this juncture. Some more thoughts here about the game. More so people flipping out about Isaiah freezing with Christy writing in. Chris Wilson, gotta love the tech issues, laughing out loud. Chardol even writing in that he froze. Goodness gracious. Stephen Wang writes in, USC is a bigger joke in his mind than Michigan right now, and it's not even close. And that USC makes Michigan look like the Pete Carroll-led USC Trojans. And also, Chardol, for some reason, picked Iowa to beat Minnesota. Did they even play today? I have no idea if they even played today. Some thoughts from Casey.
I think they play next week.
Some thoughts from Casey in regards to Clay Helton. But take is that he is a good recruiter. And yes, I wanted him out last year, but they kept him. But at least he did make changes on the defensive side of the coaching staff. But I'll say this. They have all but talent and depth and no excuse this year. If they continue to struggle and don't get to the Pac-12 title game, then Clay needs to be fired. Chris also writes in to say, real quick, the Jets are going to have an opening, laughing out loud and laughing face emoji. James agrees with me about the Bears. He can see Harbaugh to Chicago. Team needs a punch in the gut. He would probably, I think, work for that reason alone right there, as opposed to Matt Nagy, perhaps. Also, as well, Casey writes in to say that Harbaugh will not go and work for the Renters, and the idiot that is Dean Spanos. I would agree. And also, as well, that he also James writes in to say that the Colorado Buffaloes, Isaiah, are not a cakewalk because they did beat UCLA today. I know it's UCLA, Isaiah, but they still beat UCLA, and they still are a very good ball club. And I think if it's in Boulder, Colorado, you're talking about playing 2 up at elevation as well, which does not help out matter as well. And also Casey writes in to say that ASU is overhyped. Perhaps agree, but as mentioned, or maybe not, but a Herm Edwards ball club as well. So we'll see how things go with that. Also, Stephen Wang writes in, USC makes more excuses for Clay Helton than Leung makes for his own teams. Oof. Burn, baby, burn. And also Stephen says as well, so now we got to put all our money on Minnesota over Iowa because the Chardol jinx is even worse than the Isaiah jinx. They're both pretty damn close. I'd probably lean more towards Leung than Chardol at this rate. And also Chris says, only way I see him being benched is if there's an issue with his respiratory system from COVID-19, which is more so, Isaiah, a question that was posed, though, by Stephen while you were dealing with your tech problems here. We'll go to you first, Isaiah, about this question. What do you guys see as far as a possibility of Lawrence getting benched in favor of DJ for Clemson? I, for one, think it will probably be one more week. I think they'll give Lawrence one more week to kind of get back to full strength, then he comes back. But Isaiah, what do you think about this?
Well, if we're talking about when Lawrence is healthy and cleared to play, there's no way that you're benching Trevor Lawrence for DJ Ugalele. I don't even know how to say his name. I'm trying my best, ladies and gentlemen.
Tarico did it better.
Yeah. I'm sorry. I'm a DJ Ugalele. If you're watching and I'm saying your name wrong, I really apologize. I didn't mean it. But there's no way you're benching Trevor Lawrence for DJ. Absolutely no way whatsoever, because first of all, Trevor Lawrence is highly established. I would say right now he's still the way better quarterback than DJ. He has a better arm. He's more experienced. And this Clemson team, they're built to win now. They can't have a rookie or freshman come in there and, take his lumps and take his, the growing pains. They can't have that. They need a guy that is well established to put in at the quarterback position that can't make mistakes. Because let's face it, Clemson already lost one game. They can't lose anymore. They don't have any more room for error. So they have to put Trevor Lawrence back because he gives them the best shot to win the rest of their games and also try to make the college football playoff.
I could see it being one more week of them going with DJ, but if Lawrence is healthy, it could be a thing where he probably doesn't start the game, probably sits out a half and comes back and plays the second half maybe. We'll see how things go. Chris did want to add one more about that. He said, I don't think it happens just because DJ was willing to sit behind Lawrence and Trevor is a future first-round pick. Enough said. I definitely agree about that. And also as well, real quick, at this juncture, we got here Chardon making some more picks here about games that we honestly don't care about for next week right now, sadly. And also Casey says that Iowa beat Michigan State 49-7 today. Holy Toledo, Iowa. And also Chris said, did he just say ukulele? If memory serves me correct, though, wasn't there a receiver or that Gus Johnson said ukulele during a broadcast when Stanford beat Notre Dame a couple years ago at the final gun? I think so. And also James Gonzalez also says that makes the Michigan loss to Michigan State much worse than the fact that Iowa beat the crap out of Sparty today 49-7, the Hawkeyes over the Spartans. And that leads to the last game of the day, Isaiah. We'll get to, which, of course, was Baylor and Iowa State that came down to the final possession in this game today. But it was a key defensive interception done by Mike Rose and the Cyclones to hold off the Baylor Bears. 38-31 Cyclones over the Baylor Bears today for Iowa State. A great game, but obviously, Isaiah, a very rough day, though, for Brock Purdy. But in the end, though, the defense holds strong and gets the victory over Baylor. Isaiah, thoughts about Iowa State's victory tonight over Baylor at home?
Yeah, Iowa State, I think, might have the best defense in the Big 12 outside of Oklahoma State. Because right now, from the games that I've watched, their defense has just been very suffocating. They get after the passer. Their linebackers are very disciplined. Their corners and safeties are very disciplined as well. They don't really commit that many pass interference penalties or holding penalties. And I'm just really impressed by them because I think last week, if my memory serves me correct, they were able to hold that high-powered Oklahoma State offense to, I believe it was 28 points, something like that. But it was very, very good performance considering the fact that, the Big 12, every team in the Big 12 has high-powered offenses everywhere. They always put up like 40, 45 points a game. So what Iowa State has been doing is very, very impressive. I mean, they did hold Oklahoma down a couple of weeks back. That's why they beat Oklahoma. But about Brock Purdy, I'm very proud of him actually because of the way he rebounded from the early adversity. I mean, this kid could have easily folded when he was throwing those interceptions early on in that game. But, he got off the mat and he just kept fighting and he never wavered. This guy finished with 164 yards on 15 out of 24 passing. 3 touchdowns, 3 interceptions. He bounced back very nicely. He also had 5 carries for 55 yards. But, Iowa State, they are not like your traditional Big 12 offense where you're just throwing it all over the field like 70 times a game. They are a run-heavy offense. They ran the football 31 times with Breece Hall, who is one of the best running backs in all of college football. If you guys haven't watched him play, I recommend you guys to go check him out. He had 31 carries for 133 yards and 2 touchdowns. He was an absolute beast. He's been an absolute beast this entire year. But I am proud of the way that Brock Purdy, rebounded from those early interceptions when he could have easily faded after throwing those 3 picks.
Yeah, definitely for sure. You love to see a guy who's had a rough game bounce back nicely and recover. But I think, Baylor is driving down the field to win the ball game or tie the game, and Mike Rose has a very nice interception on a very, I think, poorly thrown play by the Baylor quarterback, a very underthrown ball. that I think he was trying to kind of, in a way, kind of force into a very rough spot, though, with, his man in the middle of the end zone and one guy behind him. And then, of course, Rose jumps the route and picks the ball off with a touchback to end the ball game for the Cyclones. And they win the game, as mentioned, folks. 38-31, Iowa State knocking off Baylor at home on Saturday night to round out our college football recaps here today. With that, Isaiah, we are just about roughly 12 hours or less than 12 hours away now from NFL Sunday to kick off week number 9 of the NFL season following the Niners and Packers game on Thursday. Isaiah, plenty of games on the slate, of course, on Sunday. Highlighted, of course, by the battle for the NFC South division lead again between Tampa Bay and New Orleans, this time in Tampa Bay at the new Sombrero down there in Tampa, Florida. Isaiah, maybe minus that game, because I think that's going to be on everyone's watch schedule tomorrow. Minus New Orleans and Tampa Bay. What are the other maybe couple of games you're watching closely for NFL Sunday tomorrow for week 9 of the season?
All right, so I got a couple of games. Number one, I'm going to definitely go with Ravens and Colts because the Colts are in a heated battle for the first place in the AFC South, while the Ravens are trying to battle the Steelers for the AFC North. So that's going to be a very interesting game. It's at Indianapolis as well. Indianapolis has played really good defense this year. DeForest Buckner, the guy that they got from San Francisco, he's been one of the main driving force of that defense. I think that defensive line might be able to slow down Lamar Jackson and keep him in the pocket and make him throw the football. And if they do that, that spells trouble for Baltimore, because if you have to have Lamar Jackson throw the football, you're not going to be able to win that game, because Lamar Jackson is just simply not a good passer. Just look what he did last week against the Pittsburgh Steelers when they stopped the running game, kept Lamar Jackson in the pocket and made him be a pocket passer. He was very inefficient. So I'm looking forward to that game. Another game that I'm looking forward to has got to be the Raiders and Chargers game, because right now the Raiders are in a heated battle for one of the final wild card spots in the AFC. They've been playing really good football. They beat the Chiefs a couple of weeks ago. They won last week. I think and with how the Chargers choked away that game last week against the Denver Broncos, I think that was very deflating. They could come out and not play they could come out like not very good in this game, because they're still haunted by the memories of last week's game, and the Raiders, they desperately need this game to continue their playoff chase. And I would say last but not least, got to be the Seahawks at Bills, because you have two first place teams battling it out. Seattle's terrible defense against Josh Allen and that run-heavy Buffalo Bills offense, who I think will put up a lot of points because that Seahawks defense is not that good. And also you have Russell Wilson on the other side going up against that Bills defense, who has gone down a knot as of late. So those are the games that I'm interested in for tomorrow.
Minus the Saints-Bucks game, I only have one other game on the schedule, and it does not involve Chicago. I agree with Isaiah, though. It's got to be Seattle and Buffalo. That is on my radar because of both teams having great years so far. But also Seattle, though, I think, and I believe Seattle got my pick in our group pick him, Isaiah, because Russell Wilson, I have a stat here in front of me. Russell Wilson in his career against the AFC East division is 9-1 on the year, or in his career playing the AFC East in his career. But also two very great offenses is going to be great to watch. Of course, Wilson versus Allen. In my mind, it's a game that boils down to the first big mistake that's made in this game, an interception, a fumble maybe. And, of course, got to see how bad the Bears play versus Tennessee. Again, I don't know if that defense, they've bent but not broken all year so far. But I just don't know how the Chicago defense can contain Derrick Henry. Their offensive line has been decimated by injury and COVID issues. Again, Bobby Massey is out for the game with Chicago. Of course, the very inevitable of the quarterback drama with Mitch Trubisky not being able to play. They had to promote a backup from the practice squad because Trubisky hurt his shoulder in that loss to the Saints last week. So, of course, Bears, Titans, but also Seahawks and Bills are my big games to watch on Sunday. Some thoughts from the viewers here, Isaiah. Christy, of course, will go with her Cowboys against the unbeaten Steelers. That's going to be a very tough game for Dallas. Again, probably rolling out their 4th and 5th string quarterbacks in this ball game, again, with no Dalton, no Prescott, and I believe that DiNucci is being benched in this game.
Ezekiel Elliott too might be out for this game.
know,
I think he's doubtful for this game. Like that's the last report I've seen.
From bad to worse for the Cowboys. James Gonzalez agrees though with you, Isaiah. Baltimore, Indianapolis should be interesting one to see the Colts defense versus Jackson and the offense. Definitely agree. That's going to be one hell of a game on Sunday morning. And also, James says, how about the Dolphins and Cardinals? Should be fun if Tua can get out of the pocket and put up some numbers. Two very young, dynamic quarterbacks, Kyler Murray and Tua Tagovailoa, doing battle in Arizona on Sunday afternoon. Mr. Chris Wilson says the Colts don't have enough collective talent to stop the Ravens. Baltimore is also unleashing Dez Bryant. We'll have more about him in just a couple of minutes here on the program. Stephen Wang says, for me, it's the Niners games every week from now on. As simple as that. Also, real quick, we also have Casey saying even though that his Rams are on a bye week, he'll be looking forward to Seattle and the Bills. The Cards and the Dolphins and Colts Ravens should be a good one as well. I need Buffalo and the Dolphins to win tomorrow to help out the Rams. So definitely we'll go with those picks. Shareable Steve also says, love to see Isaiah's teams fall flat on their face every single week. Also, James says, Seahawks and Bills should be a battle with which offense will be better. And I think that's where I said, though, James, it boils down to that first big mistake, though, and who's going to take advantage of that first big mistake that happens. Chris Wilson also says, Dolphins-Cardinals could easily be a shootout. Definitely agree. Casey, I agree with you. Titans will destroy the Bears. I'm all for it because I picked Tennessee to win this game handily over the Bears this week. James says, I had tickets for the annual LA home game for my Raiders. So unfortunate I can't go this season. I was planning to go see the Bears lose to the Rams this season at SoFi Stadium. So that, of course, will not happen. Hopefully, though, if the Rams and Bears are on the schedule again next year in Los Angeles. And also, Christy says the new guy or new QB for Dallas is Garrett Gilbert starting for Dallas. So the fourth string quarterback is starting for Dallas on Sunday. With that, Isaiah, some big news in the NFL, though, involving the woeful 0-8 New York Jets. But Isaiah, per reports gathered from ESPN.com, the NFL Players Association is now looking into a story and a complaint filed by the Jets and players about the presence of security cameras inside the team locker room at the team training facility in Florham Park, New Jersey. A source close to the union confirmed the report to ESPN sources. The NFLPA is considering action if the cameras are found to be in violation of the league's CBA, per the source. Per this report gathered from the New York Daily News, the players complained because they were not aware of cameras and considered them an invasion of privacy. The NFLPA contacted the NFL, which quote-unquote responded directly to the NFLPA's inquiry, a league spokesman did say. The NFL believes that the Jets haven't broken any rules and that no further action is necessary, a source also confirms. The Jets moved into the current spot in 2008. The cameras were installed at that time and are used for security purposes only. Per sources, the footage they're retaining on a rolling basis for 30 days is reviewed only by members of the security department and only on a as-needed basis, meaning in response to a reported theft or also unauthorized access. The Jets say that they have not violated the CBA or any New Jersey state laws, per sources, and that players know about those cameras. And also, real quick, ESPN contacted 4 former Jet players who played at various points over the past 12 years in the current facility. 2 of them said that they had no idea that cameras were even in the locker room, and 2 said that they were aware that cameras were there only because security investigated incidents that involved missing valuables. As for a potential CBA violation, both the Jets and the NFL contend that the cameras are in compliance with the rules because they fall under a club's management rights. It is likely, but some other teams have cameras in their locker rooms, as Pro Football Talk noted back in 2002. The Saints and wide receiver Albert Connell, were caught by security cameras taking money out of a teammate's locker room. So Isaiah, I think I totally, though, man, get the concern here, because obviously we know about the Patriots and Spygate in 2006 or 2007. We know about stuff like this, though. Maybe teams trying to get some type of a competitive edge on a ball club and just kind of peek in, though. But at the same time, though, I think it's just more so like, like home security, just more so there to kind of see if someone comes in that probably does not have the right media credentials. It doesn't have the right access to join or be in the locker room. Again, they're probably, perhaps a fan somehow getting onto the campus and breaking in to steal someone's jersey or a helmet. It's like those commercials you used to see for NFLshop.com where he had those guys hiding in like the dirty laundry, getting up and running over and jacking someone's jersey. But Isaiah, I do though, man, get though, and I'm actually very glad though that the league did pursue some type of a investigation or at least open up a inquiry about this matter at hand. But I think they'll probably, I think in my mind, harmless though. But again, I think the Jets did this right, though, for the first time all year. They've done something right, though. But it doesn't involve winning games, though. But at least, though, hopefully, though, it's not being used, though, for the wrong reasons, a la the Houston Astros.
Well, Callan, I completely agree with James Gonzalez's comment, and that was, he says it sounds like the Jets brass was trying to keep tabs on their players. Just another bad look on Adam Gase and management. Who knows? Maybe the Jets management were spying on their own players to see what kind of gossip was going on involving Adam Gase, what kind of bad stuff was being said about him. Like maybe that's why they kept the cameras. But in all seriousness, though, I understand from the Jets' point of view why they would do this, because it's for like the players' own safety, because we have had incidents where bullying occurred in locker rooms. Just look at the Jonathan Martin incident with the Miami Dolphins, I believe back in 2015. And then you also have like players stealing other players' stuff, and then also you have fans like breaking in, like you said, and stealing players' jerseys and valuables and stuff like that. So I just think it's to protect the players. I don't really think like it's anything that they're spying on their own players, because like if you put cameras in your own locker room, there's no competitive advantage. The Jets management are just looking at their own players. It's not like they're spying on the Bills or the Patriots or the 49ers or the Packers from like in the opposing locker room. So I think this is harmless. I just think that this is just the Jets trying to protect their players, and it's for their own safety.
I think it's more of a safety precaution, again, just pretty much in a way, like I've said, though, it's more so like, home security, pretty much. Maybe Julie Chen was there to film an episode of Big Brother for CBS, maybe because of what we've heard about these cameras. But again, at least though, the NFL took some sort of action in regards to it. Some thoughts here, though, again, as mentioned, though, from James Gonzalez has mentioned. James says, sounds like the Jets brass was trying to keep tabs on their players, just in their bad look on Adam Gase and management. And also, real quick, that Chardol says that they should fire Adam Gase and replace him with a better head coach, probably when the year is done. More than likely, if he wasn't fired earlier in the year, I don't see why they would fire him in the middle of the season. If they go 0-16, so be it. Fire him when the year is over, but not right now. James says, I think that the news of the cameras wouldn't come if the Jets were 7-0. It said they're 0-7, and now any bad news is piling on. Definitely agree. And Chris Wilson says, so Harbaugh to the Jets? No, Harbaugh to Chicago. Let's make it happen. With that in mind, Isaiah, one final topic here, as mentioned, Chris kind of hinted at this, though, but again, Dez Bryant will be active for the Ravens on Sunday up against the Colts for the first time. He'll be active for the first time in 2 years, again, post some off-the-field issues and also, again, ripping, but also having some issues and also injury woes. Isaiah, if in fact Dez plays well, or at least plays in this game, do you expect him to perhaps be a bit rusty, or do you perhaps think he probably jumps back into Dez Bryant form after during this game on Sunday?
I think he's going to look like a shell of himself because, like you said it, Callan, he's 32 years old. He hasn't played in 2 years. He's coming back from a torn Achilles. I don't really expect that much from Dez Bryant. If he can, go back to being the Dez Bryant of old, then, it's going to be a huge surprise for me. But right now, I just really don't expect that much from him, considering the circumstances that he hasn't played in more than 2 years, and he's like old for a wide receiver.
Yeah, I don't expect much from Dez. He's a good weapon to have, but this might be a time where I think John Harbaugh in Baltimore kind of ease him into the game plan again. I know it's probably difficult though to probably try our best to, I think Isaiah mainly. And I can say, and I've kind of been a part of this, though, is that when you're a part of a team, though, that has been doing well or been having some success without really having, with maybe not having all your weapons at your disposal. That's one thing. But when you add a new guy or add someone new into the equation, sometimes that takes time to get that chemistry underway. So I think this is more of a thing, though, where John Harbaugh and the Ravens, more so in my mind, kind of ease Dez into the game plan, into the game flow, and kind of ease him into their offensive formations more so than probably just trying to, right away, let's get him going and start throwing balls his way. And also some thoughts here. Christy Wilson says, I expect him to play, but don't think he'll have much of an impact on the game. Again, more so ease him into ease him into that offensive rotation. And also as well, James agrees with Callan. Ease Dez in. Thank you very much. You can ease him into that game plan. And also James says that Dez might need a couple of catches tomorrow. Hard to plug him in right away and expect greatness. Again, more so, I'll see. More so, I agree that pretty much in my mind, it has to be where you can't expect to plug in a new guy or plug a player in general and have him, be great all over again. And kind of get back on the ways. But again, folks, Dez Bryant will be active for their game between the Ravens and the Colts. And also, Chris Wilson says it won't be huge, but Dez is good at dink and dunk football, as is Lamar Jackson. So maybe more so maybe play calls where it's probably about a 5-yard check down, maybe a curl route, maybe a slant route going out of bounds. Who knows? But again, we'll see how effective Dez Bryant will be for the Ravens if, in fact, he gets the ball thrown his way on Sunday. With that, folks, and I'll shift gears and segue over to tonight's final thoughts. All right, folks, time to wrap things up on this Saturday night. Again, plenty of great college football action and, of course, a full slate of NFL games on Sunday. Isaiah, over to you. Final thoughts for the night's program or what?
Well, before I get into my final thoughts, Callan, I just have something I want to add about the Dez Bryant point. I think that Baltimore primarily signed him because, they didn't sign him for this game or sign him for the next couple of weeks. They signed him for the Pittsburgh Steelers because they know that when the Pittsburgh Steelers, pack it in the box and make Lamar Jackson be a pocket passer, they know that Lamar Jackson, he's not going to be able to be as efficient like we talked about. So, Dez, you can throw the ball up and he can go and get it. And, he's a very physical wide receiver. So it'll give Lamar Jackson more weapons in the passing game. So that's why I think they signed him. But in terms of my final thoughts, I want to thank Shardo Gupta, Chris Wilson, Christy Wilson, James Gonzalez. Let's see. Casey King, Stephen Wang, Chris Wood-Mancy. If I'm not, I'm sorry if I'm not pronouncing your name correctly, but let's see here. And that's pretty much it. But thank you guys so much for watching this program tonight. We really appreciate all the love and the support that you guys give us each and every night. It is so much fun to be able to, prepare a program and to come on here and entertain you guys. We love doing it. And also, we weren't going to say this, but I just want to announce to everybody tonight that we had 25 live viewers all at one time, which is a new record for the night shift. So thank you guys so much for your love and support. But my final thoughts is that I want to announce a new segment. Ladies and gentlemen, we debuted this segment a couple of weeks ago on the night shift. It's called the Blooper of the Week, where me and Callan, we would show you the top 5 bloopers for that week, and we would just have a fun time analyzing it and having a fun, just laughing about it. So make sure you guys tune in for that. The blooper of the week will be held, Callan, is it every Sunday on the night shift?
Every Sunday on the night shift, yes. We'll have a different name for it too.
Yes, we will definitely have a different name for it, but tune in tomorrow. Blooper of the week segment comes back. We're going to have a lot of funny bloopers for you guys. So get your popcorn ready. Get your soda ready, get your cookies ready, and get ready to have a good laugh tomorrow on the night shift. And last but not least, I also want to say this. watch out for Washington State, y'all. Watch out for Washington State. Nick Rolovich is a young, energetic coach. He did a phenomenal job at Hawaii. He is super fun. I followed him at Hawaii. He's going to do a good job with Washington State. They've got this young freshman gunslinger in Jaden DeLora, who has a cannon of an arm. I watched him tonight. He was very, very good. So watch out for Washington State. I don't think they're going to win the Pac-12, but watch out for them as a potential sleeper team.
As usual, folks, final thoughts for me. Again, not much else to really get to. Again, as mentioned, tremendous viewership tonight for this very late night program as usual here on this Saturday night. Again, over 25 live viewers, new record for live views during the course of a program. Again, 25 people eyeballing the program here. And again, thanks to Chris Wilson and James and Casey Chardol and the rest of the cast and the rest of the MI6 fans out there for your comments tonight, and again, for keeping us sane on this program. And again, as usual, again, thanks to Chris Wilson for, again, writing in. Again, if you folks are out there, again, check out Chris tomorrow morning on the PC and Final Score for his podcast network. And also Casey will see us tomorrow as well to recap the NFL games. And, of course, James Gonzalez, thank you, everyone. Great entertainment, as always, on these programs. That is why we are here, folks. To, of course, keep you folks posted and, of course, entertain you guys throughout the course of your late nights on Saturdays and on Sundays. With that, folks, for Isaiah Leung, for our executive producer, Shareable Stephen Wang, and the rest of the cast and crew here from the MI6 Sports Network, yours truly, Callan McClurg, saying goodnight here, folks, on this Saturday night. We'll see you folks back here, as mentioned, on Sunday to wrap up the week of coverage. And again, folks, and once again, bring back our blooper of the week to be renamed eventually. Back here again, 10 o'clock Pacific time tomorrow night. Back here on the 6th. Isaiah, what do you got for us?
For all of our audience out there, if you guys have any ideas what we should name our blooper of the week, don't be afraid to go toss them in the comment section. We would definitely love for your input on this and for your ideas, and maybe, who knows, like your idea could actually be the new name of our blooper of the week segment.
We'll actually have a post for you folks on Facebook where you guys will be able to drop that in the comment box, so we have a bit of a better way to keep the comments separate from the actual stream feed. But again, folks, for Isaiah Leung, for the rest of the cast and crew here on the MI6 Sports Network, yours truly, Callan McClurg, saying good night. We'll see you folks back here tomorrow on Sunday to recap week 9 of the NFL season and, of course, get you ready for a new week of coverage. Again, back here at 10 o'clock tomorrow night, back here on the MI6 Sports Network. Till Sunday, folks, have a good rest of your night. Take care, stay safe, and stay healthy. And if you're in California, stay dry as it rains out here in our great state of California. Till next time, folks, good night. Bye-bye.